All right, welcome. Today, we're going to take a tour of one of the most incredible, most fundamental, and honestly, most crowded places you can imagine, the living cell. So let's just dive right in. To get us started, I've got a question for you. What on earth could a human being, a simple houseplant, and, that green gunk on top of a pond possibly have in common? It kind of sounds like the setup for a really weird joke, right? But the answer is actually the foundation for all of biology. And here it is, they are all built from the very same thing. Tiny, bustling, microscopic cities that we call cells. Seriously, every single living thing you have ever seen is basically a massive empire made of these tiny cities, all working together. But before we could ever take a tour of this city, we first had to figure out that it even existed. And that story took a few hundred years and some seriously curious people. So let's do a quick trip back in time. It all kicks off in 1665. A guy named Robert Hooke looks at cork through a microscope and sees these little empty boxes he calls cells. Then, not long after, Antony van Leeuwenhoek is just blown away when he sees actual living things swimming around in a drop of pond water. It still takes until the 1800s for Schleiden and Schwann to put it all together and realize, wait a minute, all living things are made of cells. And then Rudolf Virchow drops the final, crucial piece of the puzzle. Cells can only come from other cells. And all that incredible detective work gave us what we now call the cell theory. It's basically three simple but, profoundly important rules that govern all life as we know it. It's the constitution for our entire tiny city. Okay, tour starts now, and we have to begin at the most important building in this whole metropolis, City Hall. Or, as we know it, the nucleus. This is the absolute command center. So locked inside this highly secure, membrane-bound fortress is the cell's most valuable possession, its DNA. You have to think of this as the brain of the whole operation. It holds the master plan for literally everything the cell will ever do. So inside this city hall, we've got the city government. The DNA, that's the master blueprint. The nucleus uses that blueprint to manage absolutely everything. All the operations, all the growth, and it sends out its instructions through these super secure gateways called nuclear pores. And get this, it even has its own little workshop inside, the nucleolus, that builds the city's construction machinery. Okay, so the orders are out from City Hall. Now the rest of the city has to actually get to work. Let's go check out the amazing infrastructure that powers, builds, and cleans our cellular city 24/7. First stop, the power grid. Every city needs energy, right? Well, in the cell, that job falls to thousands of these little power plants called mitochondria. They take in food and convert it into a special energy molecule called ATP. Think of ATP as the universal currency, or the electricity, for the cell. No mitochondria, no power. The city just shuts down. Next up is the city's industrial zone. The endoplasmic reticulum, or just the ER, is this huge factory network that builds all the proteins and fats the city needs to function. Then, once those things are built, they get sent over to the Golgi apparatus. The Golgi is basically the city's central post office. It sorts, packages, and ships all those products exactly where they need to go. But all this work, it makes a mess. And that's where the lysosomes come in. These are the city's sanitation and recycling crew. They're basically little bags full of powerful digestive proteins called enzymes. These guys break down old parts, they destroy any foreign invaders, and this is wild. If the cell gets badly damaged, they can actually trigger a self-destruct sequence. Now, you might be wondering, where is all this stuff happening? It's not just floating in empty space. Everything we've talked about, City Hall, the power plants, the factories, it's all suspended in the cytoplasm. This is a thick, jelly-like goo that fills the whole city, gives it shape, and lets everything move around. Of course, any city worth its salt needs a border, right? Something to protect it. But in the world of cells, it turns out not all borders are built the same way. So, an animal cell city, it's surrounded by this flexible plasma membrane. You can think of it like a very strict border patrol that checks the ID of everything trying to get in or out. But a plant cell, on the other hand, can't just get up and move away from danger, so it needs extra protection. It has the same plasma membrane, but then it adds a thick, rigid cell wall on the outside for some serious structural support. So we've toured a single city, and that's incredible enough. But the part that is truly, truly mind-blowing is how these individual cities come together to build the massive empires we call living things. Just take a look at this number, 37 trillion. That's the estimated number of these cellular cities that are working together in perfect harmony inside your body right now. To put that in perspective, that's a population thousands of times greater than every human who has ever lived. And here's the crazy part. These cities aren't just clones of each other. They specialize. Some of them become nerve cells, forming a biological internet. Others become muscle cells, acting as the engines that let us move. They group together to form tissues, then organs, and then entire systems. It's a perfectly coordinated civilization of trillions. And it all comes back to that one powerful idea: the cell is the structural and functional unit of life. That means it's both the brick, the physical building block, and it's the worker doing the job. From the tiniest little bacterium to the biggest blue whale, everything comes down to what these incredible little cities do. So I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. If every single one of your 37 trillion cells is its own bustling city with its own government, its own industry, its own defenses, then what does that make you? Are you just a person? Or are you an entire universe?